Good evening. Going to get the public hearing underway for the second proposed budgets for the town of Clinton and the Board of Education. There's legal notices with the budgets as you come in. Hopefully everybody has a copy. You really have to keep it down back there as you're checking in, please. This past Monday, the Board of Finance had a regular meeting where we reviewed the budgets and made some cuts to the budgets as a result of the failed referendums. We cut $179,625 from the town operating budget, and we reduced the Board of Ed budget by $97,000. If you look at the legal notice, it now shows the proposed spending plan for the town at $15,211,584, and for the Board of Education, $31,309,501, for total expenditures of $46,521,085, with a proposed mill rate increase of 0.25, which would bring the mill rate to 25.43. It's currently 25.18. Tonight is about listening to the public. We have a few more people here than we had on April 3rd. It's pleasant to see. The way the process works is that members of the public can come up, take the microphone, and address your comments to the Board of Finance and tell us what you think about each budget. We're going to start with the town budget. There are a lot of people here. I don't know how many of you are going to want to speak in whatever you want to say about the budgets. But if you start repeating yourself, I'll give you a gentle nudge. We'd like to keep the comments short so everybody has an opportunity to be heard once, at least those who want to be heard. After we finish out with the town, we'll go to the Board of Education, do the same thing. You can speak about that budget. Again, I'm not going to enforce a time limit, but if you start repeating yourself, I'm going to gently nudge you, say excuse me, and we'll go to the next person. This is your hearing. We've been dealing with these budgets since January. We vetted these budgets through budget workshops and meetings in the month of February. We've had regular meetings and special meetings. We have considered the audit, the surplus, the revenues, tax collection rate, departmental needs, infrastructure needs, and that's just for the short term. In addition, we've also considered what we need to do to continue good financial practices for the town of Clinton going forward, especially in light of two major capital expenditures that everybody should be aware of in this room: the wastewater solution and the new school project. And I just want to say a word about appropriating surplus. This budget does have an appropriation of $200,000 of undesignated surplus funds in the revenue side of the budget. Because of the failed referendum, we cannot add to the revenue side of the budget unless there is a clear error or an omission. So revenues can't be adjusted. The only thing that can be adjusted is the spending budgets. That's what we're voting on May 22nd, the second set of spending budgets. So before I open the floor to the public, I'm going to ask if any members of the Board of Finance want to address you. Does anybody want to address the public? No. I also didn't introduce everybody. That's Doug Traynor down at the end, Ona Nagel, Tom Hollinger, I'm Brad Sullivan, this is Dennis Donovan, Val Nye, Leah Saunders, and our very capable Secretary, Mary Scatina. So, please just give Mary your name and address if you want to be heard, and we'll get the show going with the town budget first.
Good evening, fellow residents of Clinton. My name is John Olsen. I live at 101 Pratt Road. Myself and wife had moved here back in 1995. We love the community. Children are all grown. And I would just like to speak to in favor of I voted for the first budget, and I think support Justin's second budget. This is a beautiful town, has great services. We need to be putting in place the kind of, I know I could run my household on a small surplus. I think we have to budget for things that are coming forward, so you need to have a little bit of surplus in your budget. So I would encourage the Finance Board to go forward and not to make any further cuts in the town budget. I also, education is a very important issue. And just to cite the chairman of the largest business association in the state, who's on TV on Sunday, and he cited education as one of the most important economic development policies that we could pursue and support. And he also said something that really stuck with me. He says it's not about, business doesn't want to find the cheapest place to do business, they want to find the best place to do business. I live in Clinton. I would say to you, after living in Greenwich, that Clinton does not have to take any backseat to Greenwich with what it offers its citizens, and I encourage everyone to vote for the budget next month.
Good evening, my name is Phil Sengel. I'm a member of the Police Commission. Oh, okay, good point. Yeah, hi, I'm Phil Sengel. I'm a member of the Police Commission, as is Peggy Adler right here. The bulk of the Police Commission is at the Police Department, along with the Chief and the Majors. We're giving out awards tonight to our great police men and women for some exemplary work they've done. We're also giving out civilian awards tonight for citizens who have helped us out greatly throughout the year. And that's a long roundabout way of saying, I'm here to support the town budget. I think it should go forward as it's been presented by the Board of Finance. It does include an additional officer for the police department, but it's not really a new officer because, 3 or 4 years ago, we had an officer cut from the department. So it's like a replacement for that officer, and it will allow us to make the school resource officer permanent. Currently, it's paid for by overtime, and it's not a tenable long-term solution. So we're here to support this. We've got a fine department, and we do everything we can to make it run as efficiently as possible. We're stretched very thin manpower-wise. We've got an officer in Afghanistan. We've got 3 out on injury in a department of 24 people. It's when you're filling 3 shifts a day, 365 days a year, with the minimum staffing requirements we have, it's very tough. So they would all be here, but they're receiving well-earned awards tonight, and they asked me to come down and speak on behalf of this budget. Thank you.
Peggy Adler, also on behalf of the Police Commission, I'd like to urge all of you to please vote in favor of the town budget. I have heard that there are people who are going to say vote against it because they want the school resource officer paid for out of the Board of Education budget. Whether it's paid for out of the town or out of the school budget, you're still paying for it. It's an important position, and if the budget goes down again, we will lose our new officer, and we will have people who will be working double and triple shifts, which is very dangerous for them and for the public. Thank you.
I'm Marge Calvin. I live on 9 Settlers Lane. I love this town. And one of the things encourage our children. Getting at home in a library, loving a library, loving the story hour, the way they're treated, the way they're welcomed, the special programs for them. And I also want to address with our children, the Board of Education, the education budget. This is about giving our children, not one that you mine individually, not yours, all our children, giving them the best education they can get in the best schools that we can provide for them. And I urge the Board of Finance to please not cut expenditures for these wonderful facilities we have. Thank you.
Can you hear me without this?
I guess. How's that, okay? I have to follow up with Marge. We're buddies on the library. I'm also torn with the Board of Education budget, too. I had the pleasure of being at Morgan for 40 years, and I still respect what's going on up there, and so we shouldn't suffer any cuts. When I hear people say that I don't have any kids there anymore, we're making a contribution to our generation. We've got to see some of those things. I don't have to pay the taxes for that. I'm done with my kids, and they're not there. But let me talk about the library a bit, so I don't go too far. It'll turn here. I wrote something down. I feel responsible to you as a trustee of the Henry Carter Library that it will offer you all the service it can to enrich your lives. We offer all sorts of reading materials, videos, computers, a reading area, a children's room, and a community room. I have been involved in this endeavor for over 30 years, from the small library downtown to our magnificent building on the hill. I was on a committee that got that building. And when I see how it's being used, I can't believe we had adversaries. Really. We have grown into this building for your pleasure and a source of knowledge. Let's vote to keep it that way. When I first became acquainted to a public library, I stood amazed that the books are free. It's still that way for all of us. Let me quote from Charles Dickens, since I spend a good part of my life around literature. Forgive me if I pick up a little bit of that right now. Charles Dickens opens his adventures, A Tale of Two Cities, with these words. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Let's keep our children in the best, keep our library in the best of times. The worst of times means reduction in our budget. No more reduction that reduces your enjoyment of the library. Thanks for listening.
Mark Coletta, Ben Merrill Road. I'm a taxpayer. Which services should we cut? Reduce the hours or days our library is open? Spend less maintaining our athletic fields? Maybe we should mow every other week. Plow our roads less quickly? Maybe we should cut transportation for our seniors. I've heard people say that Clinton's budget is too high. Really? We lack adequate economic development. No water pollution commission. Not following our 10-year vehicle replacement plan. The assessor's office is understaffed. No town planner, no town engineer. All these things take money. Let's talk surpluses. The CTA says, quote, no one benefits from surpluses. They just drive up mill rates, unquote. This year, $2.6 million in appropriations were made from our surplus, including the Hurricane Sandy cleanup and the blizzard cleanup. Underfunding capital improvements every year forces us to draw from our surplus, like the $800,000 for our fire engine paid from our savings account. The surplus is a rainy day fund. Clinton's Board of Finance policy is to maintain a surplus of 10% of our operating budget. Many towns adhere to a 15% surplus. We are close to dipping below that 10% now, and will undoubtedly fall short if we expend additional surplus to pay for our operating expenses or capital improvements. Just like you and I, the town has unforeseen expenses. $150,000 in a hypertension workers' comp payment. $100,000 in a Souls Point drainage settlement. Our surplus is not only financially conservative, but necessary. It's the reason Clinton has an AA2 credit rating, which in turn provides a favorable bond rating. I'm not sure about you, but I like to know what my annual tax bill is. Can you imagine if we did not have a surplus and we incur a sizable emergency expenditure? This is called a deficit. How would you like to receive a notice in the mail for a special assessment? A $500 bill due in 30 days. Last but not least, education. Our school system is excellent because we invest in education. Our kids, our future. Even with the currently proposed 0% change in the education budget, we cannot compromise school safety, including video surveillance and technology upgrades. Furthermore, the Board of Education has worked diligently to cut costs by renegotiating utilities, service contracts, and health insurance, to name a few. The current year anticipated surpluses have been applied to reduce the capital budget request by $200,000. This budget is prudent and well-reasoned. We need to depend upon our elected officials who have spent countless hours scrutinizing these numbers. I urge you to walk out of here tonight and call 10 people, convincing them to vote yes on May 22nd for both the town and education budgets. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa McCoe. I live at 75A Glenwood Road. We need healthy communities, and that means a yes vote for town, for education, fire, police, beaches, and our beautiful library. I'm a 6th grade math teacher at Jared Elliott Middle School, and I don't know if you know about this. We were just named a Spotlight School. Do you know what that means? We are the best middle school, not on the shoreline, not in the state of Connecticut, but in the entire New England region. No more cuts. Please allow us on this path of excellence. Please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Beverly Bowen. I'm a speech and language pathologist for Clinton Public Schools. My husband and I also raised our 4 children in this community. I came to live here in 1984. And we came to this community because we felt that it was a supportive community, both on the town and the education side. And we found that over the years that was true. Our children received an excellent education in the town of Clinton. I'm advocating for no further cuts, respectfully, for the town and education budgets. If we are to attract the best teachers, resource officers, and other individuals, both administrative and clerical, we must provide adequate resources. And resources means people. We are a people-intensive, education is people-intensive. It requires people, and we must provide for them. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Jeff Cashman. I live at 66 River Road. I wanted to share with you the conversation that my wife and I had before we came down tonight. My wife came home, she works for Jack Cross up at the school. She works with special needs kids. I see that when you watch the round of applause, you can tell how many people are here in support of the budget. And I guess I'm not going to be the first one to sit here and say I'm against the budget, because I can't afford to do that. I really can't, you know. I want to be really honest, and I want to be really fair with everybody tonight. I think that our community, when they made a vote, there's a lot of nervous people out there financially. There's a lot of people that are looking and are scared. There's a lot of people looking to the future of businesses that are leaving our town. There's a lot of people that are just really don't know how to make ends meet. I want you to, for the next few weeks, I want you to, when you go and get gas for your car, I want you to look at the amount of money that is on the gas pumps and what people are actually spending on gas. They're still living on a $20 bill. $20 means an awful lot every week. If everybody had to open their wallets up tonight and actually show what readily available cash is to them tonight, you might be a little bit shocked. You might sit there and go, wow. We watch some certain things in our hardware store to where people today are living on more credit than they are living on their debit cards, which means readily available cash to them. We watch people with purchases up to $1.27, hoping that we'll run that credit card. These things are real evident in our community. When you look at it and you say the biggest scare to every homeowner in this home, in this town, is the oil man coming in for 100 gallons wanting $400. Those $100 or 100 gallons don't go very far, and people are taking their weekly paychecks just to eat their meals. I notice it in a hardware store when people come in and they say, I don't have the money to buy a brand new vacuum, is there any way I can just put some screws in and make this thing work? I watch teachers, I watch everybody look for the bottom line bargain deal. Our community today are bargain hunters. We find every nickel, every dime. We do. We do it when we go grocery shopping, we go with the best price for gas. That's how Carmen's gas station took off so well, because he was so cost conscious about the gas that he was putting in our community. He was working really inexpensively as opposed to some big corporation. If you look at a couple of different items here, we just got through putting, is it bulletproof glass in the tax collector's office? Or is it just plexiglass? Has anybody really said to the Board of Finance, thank you for working so hard? Has anybody ever, or are you disrespected tonight? Do you feel disrespected because you're trying to make a budget pass to make our community go a little bit further for every dollar that we have? Do you have any clue that in my home, if my wife is to be approached by Jack Cross tomorrow and say during budget cuts, we no longer have room for your job here because we have to cut budgets, I have no health care in my home. I'll have to go out and buy that for myself. That's a privilege that you taxpayers give to me, who was really sick this winter. I was in and out of the hospital 3 or 4 times, and I think I told you how wonderful it was to be able to have good quality health care for my wife and for my family. I can't afford it on my own at $1.27 at the cash register. I can't. So you people, when you do pass this budget, you make a difference in a lot of people's homes. You make a difference in a lot of people's lives. It means Willie, what he does with his kids. It means Karen Marsden, what she does in her retirement. It means what Carol Walter does in their retirements. I think everybody here just wants something fair. We want to give unto Caesar what is due Caesar, no more than what we can bear. And I think what we want is we just want it fair. I personally want to come in tonight and I want to thank the Board of Finance from my heart. I finally get to meet Mr. Sullivan instead of reading him on the patch. I think it's great what we have in our community. I don't think there's anybody that loves this community any more than I do in my personal contributions to make it a little bit better. I love this town. I think it's wonderful. I made a nest egg here 25 years ago, and I've been working. Those are working hands every day. I don't want a lot of financial money in my pocket. I just want to go home and know that my family's fed, the taxes are paid, we have friends in this town, we can count on one another. That's all I want. I want to be a good man in community, I want to be a good businessman in this community, and I personally am scared of where we're going in the next 10 years. Banking things have changed, our lifestyles have changed. So much is demanded from our police department today. Every call about a cat that's been kidnapped and up in a tree, they have to respond. The police department, from the fire department to our schools, are being demanded to teach every possible little kid that you can possibly imagine. We're demanding it from our community, and that's going to cost money. I think everybody just wants something fair. Am I for the budget? If the town wants to have these services, we have to pay for them. They're not going to come free. Are they fair? I believe they are. Will I pay my taxes? I love Melanie Annis just as much as anybody else does in this town. I hate her. I say that in defense of every possible position tonight. And when you sit there and you look at fair amounts of money for fair services in our town, that's all we really want. And I think everybody in their heart tonight wants that, just what's fair and reasonable. Thank you.
My name is Len Freed. I live at 28 South Point Road. I've worked on budgets off and on for many years, ranging from millions of dollars to hundreds of millions of dollars to literally billions of dollars. However, the principles pretty much remain the same no matter what the monetary value is. And that is, what you don't do is you don't do a bottoms-up budget. A bottoms-up budget means people in departments figure out how much money they need, they roll it up, a department head then takes that number and comes to some committee, like a Board of Finance, and says, this is what I need. The Board of Finance tries to intelligently try to whittle that down and see if they really need that. That's a waste of time, because budgets made by people want to do their jobs right, and it's easy to do your job right if you have more resources, if you have more people, if you have more materials, if you have more equipment. So it's just natural that people want as much money as possible. If I was Jack Cross and I was running the Board of Education, I would ask for all the money I could get. I just would. So it's natural that budgets are always fat. And the way it has to be done is some group at a higher level has to basically say, look, this is what you spent last year, X, this year you're going to spend 5% less. Figure out how to do it, and by the way, there can be no drop in services. Now, how do they do that? Normally, the department heads know where waste is. There's waste and inefficiencies everywhere. And if they don't know, the people in the departments certainly know. And you ask them. You ask the construction workers, so how can we save money? You ask even teachers. So tell me, where are we wasting money? Not getting rid of teachers, but where do you see waste? They'll tell you. So there's ways that you benchmark. You look at what other towns are doing. Why is our cost per student higher than other towns? Maybe there's a good reason. Maybe it's not. And you carefully benchmark these things. So what I'm telling you is you can have your cake and eat it, kind of. Meaning that you can keep all the services, cut the budget, and still basically get what you're getting before. The thing it takes is some hard work. It takes some rolling up your sleeves, really looking hard at numbers. Of course, the Board of Finance, no one's paid here, and they work very hard as it is. But it can be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Kurt Carr, non-Osmond County South. It's very difficult to argue with the sentiments that people in this town have for the town of Clinton. It's a wonderful town. There are people who work as volunteers, such as your Board of Finance, Board of Education. Those of us who think that the budgets are too high, the surpluses are not doing us a service, do not disrespect the Board of Education. We don't disrespect the Board of Finance. value many of the same things that those of you who think that we should just increase the budget, whatever amount it needs to be. And obviously, there are a lot more people that at the last referendum who agreed with us than perhaps agreed with some of you who've spoken earlier. Clinton now has the highest mill rate on the shoreline. I know you've all heard that. 2 of our neighboring towns have not raised their mill rate, will not raise it this year. So the gap is going to grow. They're going to become even more expensive as a result of that. I've written a lot of memos to the Board of Finance suggesting ways that they could reduce the budget. And you have to realize that budgets and spending are 2 different things. I'm not suggesting a big drop in spending, although I agree with Lynn, it probably could be done there. And as we go forward to build this school, to have this wastewater solution, we can't expect the taxpayers to bear 100% of that burden. They just can't do it. It's not possible. They won't do it. I mean, what you saw at this last referendum, when they start getting the bill for the new school, they're going to come out in droves. And many of you who are for the school, I think, when you get the bill, when you see how much it's going to cost, I think you're going to be shocked. I think you've been misled about the cost. I think you've been misled about what you're going to get. I think you've just been a bait and switch on it.
It's not about the school, is it? Cut it out. This is a public hearing. He can speak his mind.
Excuse me?
He's got every right to speak just like anyone else.
But anyway, the thing is that in preparation for that, we need to get serious now about every budget. And most of the money happens to be in the Board of Education, but there's some limitations because of the minimum budget requirement. It's going to be very difficult to go forward and make ends meet with all the obligations that this town has undertaken. And the taxpayers are saying no. They've said they've had enough. They did it in referendum. Many of them will not get up and say what I've said because, frankly, they get intimidated by many of the people in this room. Their neighbors will shun them. They won't, they will, they're just not comfortable. We did a survey of people who are CTA fans, and many of them don't even come to these meetings, partly because they don't think that the Board of Finance listens, but also because they wouldn't get up and say anything for fear of being attacked and being abused because of it. So with that in mind, many of the people here, I think, agree with me, will not get up and say what I'm saying. But I hope you'll take it to heart. It's not meant to be mean. I think we can disagree without being disagreeable. I find that very hard for some people in town. But I think we need to respect one another's point of view, and just because I differ with yours doesn't make me a bad person. Thank you very much, and thanks for coming out.
Sorry. I've got people. Oh, okay, sorry. My name is Aidan Moore, and I live in Mount Hill Road. I've been here 12 years. I've been a proud taxpayer. I believe in paying taxes. I believe I get good value for my money. I believe my kids are being well educated here. We have plenty of choices. We could have sent them to private school. Both of my kids are now in the system. My daughter's nearly finished, and I've got to say I'm really proud of the job the Morgan School is doing with the educating our young people. I've been in construction over 25 years now, and every project I have worked on, both government and private, has a requirement that a surplus amount of money is set aside for contingency, as contingency money, because the bottom line is nobody can predict the future. Nobody. And that's why I find it incredibly frustrating to have an organization in this town that is far against deficits and against surpluses. You can't have both. You can't be against deficits and against surpluses. There is no way the Board of Finance, who have done a tremendous amount of work, can predict the future. There's no way. So we have to build in contingency into our budgets, and sometimes we have a surplus, and sometimes we have a deficit. But that's the way a budget has got to be built. So if we want to follow the CTA mentality, where they have some kind of magic crystal ball that they can look into the future, maybe they can tell us when the next snowstorm is going to come. Maybe they can tell us when the next hurricane is going to come. Maybe they can tell us down to the nearest ounce how many tons of debris from the hurricane have to be removed. How many man-hours that's going to take to remove that. You can't do that unless we have this magic crystal ball that the CTA think they have. So I would like to thank the Board of Finance for all their hard work, and I hope you all vote yes on the next time around with the budget. Thank you.
Vince Amito, 161 East Main. First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Finance for doing a good job in finding some surplus funds in the town budget. And secondly, and more importantly, I'd like to thank everyone who's here tonight, because the last time we had a public hearing, it was pretty sad. There was not a very good showing, and that's when you have a town meeting form of government, it's really important that you exercise your right and you show up. If we had a crystal ball, if we had this magical crystal ball, I can tell you a couple of things that you would see in it. One would be that we're going to have to pay for a $64 million school. No one else is going to do it. We're going to have to do it. Two, we're going to have to pay for a new wastewater treatment solution. Estimates are about $70 million. We're going to have to pay for it. No one else. We can bond it. Yeah, it'll be bonded. Eventually, the bill comes to us. I spoke with Kevin Chambers, who's the director of the Bureau of Grants Administration for the State Board of Education. And he said what I've known all along. When the state of Connecticut instituted a minimum budget requirement, it was a huge mistake. His department spoke very loudly, but they could not convince the state that it was a big mistake. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it is that the new budget is based on what is appropriated from the year before. Well, by definition, that will never go down. It will just keep increasing. So no one wants to take anything away from the children of Clinton. Nobody. Nobody in the town of Clinton wants to take anything from the children of Clinton. However, a couple of months ago, the same Board of Finance was given a report, and the estimated surplus was $868,000. Children of Clinton got everything that was in the budget, and there was a surplus, $868,000. Well, committees were formed, and lo and behold, we sit here today, and now that budget has been, that surplus has been reduced by about $500,000. Both Kevin Chambers, as well as Brian Mahoney, who is the Chief Financial Officer for the Board of Education for the state of Connecticut, have confirmed that the town has the right to request a waiver on the minimum budget requirement, a reasonable waiver. If we were to request a 1% decrease in the minimum budget requirement, first of all, if we take the $249,000 that is above the minimum budget requirement, and then we add a 1% decrease, which would be approximately $315,000. Now we're talking about $565,000. And when we talk about the funds that were cut from the town side, and believe me, I wasn't here arguing for cutting the town side of the budget. I don't even think it's necessary, quite honestly. I think we have to maintain our services. It just so happens that it's always safety and services that gets cut when they start looking to, once a budget is voted down. But we all know that the majority of your taxes go towards the education budget. So if we were to request a waiver, and we asked to be able to reduce our MBR by just 1%, that wouldn't even, that's like a third of the surplus they ended up with this year. So if you take away the 249, the 315, the funds that, the surplus that the Board of Finance was able to find on the town side, there's no need for a tax increase. Is everybody happy at that point? I would hope so, because the kids are getting a full, everything that they got this year. More funds than were used this year until we found out that there was a big surplus. Taxpayers who are going to have to face these huge expenditures. Everybody in this room is going to have to look at the cost of a new high school and a wastewater treatment solution and whatever else comes along. So I would recommend that the Board of Education request a waiver. And by the way, although there would be an initial penalty, it would lower the minimum budget requirement for years to come. Because as I said, the minimum budget requirement is based on historic budgets. Thank you.
Anyone else want to talk about the town budget? Well,
Just to clarify the score information.
Let's talk about it a little bit. I just want to comment on the concept of the waiver. Mr. Semino is correct. It is possible to do that, but what he is not clarifying is what that penalty is that whatever that percentage that you take away below the budget requirement has to be paid back. And then it has to be paid back for the next 2 years. And so you only get a one-time shot at bringing it below the original MBR without paying for it in that year. You do have to make that amount up over the next 2 years, and you're right back to where you were. So concept is accurate. You can in fact do a 1% reduction on the MBR, but you have to make it up, and that is the penalty that you pay over the next 2 years. So you will have to make it up.
Hi, I'm Kristen Snow, live on Carrick Drive. We moved here 8 years ago from a town in Georgia, beautiful low-tax Georgia. We had a beautiful home. Services were so-so, but one of the services was they would pick up anything for the garbage, anything, a washing machine for free with the town. Amazing services. The high schools there had a 35% graduation rate. That's how wonderful it was down there. So we enjoy these low taxes, but we were also, the culture was dead. The library, my husband and I would go to the library, there was nobody, there was nothing. Parks, beautiful, Georgia weather, we would be the only ones without children in the parks, empty playgrounds. It was just, it was not a great place to live. And we moved here, and we have enjoyed the wonderful library. I've met so many of my friends at this wonderful library we have in town. Our children are receiving a wonderful education. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, a great big, wonderful city. People talk about it. My step-siblings' children are not receiving anywhere near the same education. My children are kindergarten, second grade. They're already just ways beyond people down there. So I love Clinton. We get a great value for our taxes. We get great things here. Look outside. It's just ridiculously beautiful. You look at the landing out there, look in here. If you want lower taxes, you can go take a look at some other places. I think we have a lot of work to do in our town. We talked about the wastewater treatment center, which is going to bring growth to our town. We could do that.
The new high school will bring people moving here like us. We moved here because of the education system. We want more people like that. And unfortunately, our in-laws lived here. And that same football's been kicked down the road back in the 70s and 80s. Wasn't that something that you guys talked about? Well, here we are, looking at that. We want to just boot it on down another 10 years. Well, that's going to stagnate our town. So I think we need to think positively about what we have going on in our town, enjoy it, and read the budget and vote yes and move on. Thanks.
No responding. You'll get another chance when we get to the Board of Ed budget. Anyone else to speak about the town budget, please?
Valerie Gilcher, 181 Glenwood Road. Moved here 25 years ago. My 3 kids. I just want to say, the first place we went to when we moved here was the library. And it's a fantastic resource and deserves all of our support. And I just think also that the Public Works Department this year has had, very difficult. And yet, we have to make up 10 days, but it could have been 15 if they did not do their jobs. I also teach. I teach at Elliott Middle School, the Spotlight School. And I'm proud of it. So I'm here to talk about the town budget, and I think it's a great town. And I've, moved to Connecticut temporarily back in 1981. Made it up to Clinton in 87, and that's when I started to like living in Connecticut. So I think it's a great town, and I think the Board of Finance has done, an exemplary job on, finding a way. I don't know about you guys, but when I go to the gas pump, I have to pay more for gas. When I order oil, I have to pay more for oil. All my costs are going up at my household, and I'm sure it's going up the town as well. So let's support the town.
Quick and easy. I'm just here in support of both budgets. If I was not in support of them, I should have been here last fall, as should have all of us. They've worked their butts off trying to make it a budget that they feel comfortable with. They've made cuts. And our chance to speak with them. So none of us have a leg to stand on except for me. We let the people go to their meetings. And so for the surplus rumors, or I guess they're not rumors, but the advocates for the surplus, I would prefer to keep a surplus because we do know we have a school coming down. We do know we're going to have wastewater treatment facility coming down. We know we're going to have to bond some things. The $10 that I might save a year in taxes through this budget cut, slashing every time we make a new vote, I do not want to risk our bond rating and having that percentage drop, even if it's an 1/8 of a point. That's going to be a whole lot more than $10 a year on the numbers that we are looking at for our schools and our wastewater treatment. So, and don't pass, gosh, please pass. I am not interested in seeing slashing cuts to the library to the tune of $100,000. Make it across the board of 1%, 2%, but don't take one entity that all of us use to get a sympathy vote and get us out here and angry and say, darn them, they're not going to take our library away so that a vote will pass. I think it's fair enough to just take it across the board. But I'm in support of no more cuts, and I hope the rest of you are.
Hi, thank you. My name is Steve Wexel. Lived in town for about 13 years now, and I'm in support of both budgets. I think, again, what Sandy said, I'm completely in agreement with. As far as the town budget, I just think that we're an incredibly organized town. Ever since I've been here, it's gotten incrementally better to live here. In other words, the things around me have gotten better, and just incrementally. You know, it hasn't been this one day I go downtown and everything's great. It's just every year it's gotten a little better. Every year we're more organized. Take these snowstorms and the hurricanes. Our town was one of the first of the shoreline to respond. Our DPW was out there clearing trees wherever they were allowed to go, because obviously they can't get in close to the lines. Okay, this was organization. And what we're asking, what's being asked now, is that we take that organization and gut it. And that's really what this is about. It's gutting of our core services. Let's give these guys the tools they need to do the job, because they've been getting incrementally better every single year, and that's all we can ask. And I don't think that what we're paying in the budget is that extravagant for the services that we're getting. And again, as long as they keep improving, it's hard to say, especially with the cost of living increases, the price of fuel going up, even though we're enjoying relatively low prices right now. But, you know, $3.50 a gallon. But for the most part, with fuel prices and everything and how much it costs to operate old buildings, which we have plenty of, it's very expensive. So I think we've been efficient, we've been well-run, well-organized, and I really just am against taking away the tools and the things that these people need. Our fields look great, our parks look great, everything's well-maintained, and what we're being asked is to neglect our infrastructure here. And that's really the core of it, and that's why I'm for the town budget.
Hi, I'm Debbie Hauser. I'm living on Buell Court. I moved here in August? Okay, how am I doing? So, if you want to talk about taxes, you have to see the Havens taxes, which is where I'm coming from. Okay? So, with all due respect, we moved to Clinton for a lot of reasons. One, we think it's the most charming shoreline town. We talk about this microphone. And we were deeply impressed with the school system. My son attended the Foot School in New Haven, a private school, and he is now very happily challenged at the Morgan School. And we couldn't be more thrilled that he's there. But we came here for a lot of reasons. We love the town, we love the people, but I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of a concept that is important to me and might be important to you, which is about investment versus spending. And so we're all having to tighten our belts. We're all very angry with the federal government. We're all very angry with the federal government. Federal government and
Hold it still.
Okay, how am I doing? Okay, my message is getting all messed up here. So what I was trying to say is really trying to discern between investing and spending. Now, certainly we're all having to tighten our belts. We're all very upset with the federal budget deficit and bloat and abuse and fraud. We're all very upset with, that sort of thing. I don't think that's what we're seeing here in Clinton. From what I understand, and I don't know the numbers specifically, and forgive me for that, is that it's about a $27 increase per $100,000 of assessed value. I don't know, I might have that wrong, but it's not life-threatening. So yes, I believe that we should be running a lean machine. Yes, we should do more with less, because that's what's going to be expected of us now and going forward. But I also think that you do need to have a modicum of belief in investing in your town on all levels instead of spending. This isn't just sort of wasteful spending because we want to have fancy stuff. this is about sort of investing in infrastructure as well as in the kids. So I just wanted to make a note to that. But I'm really happy to be in Clinton, really happy to be here, and of course I'm going to be voting yes.
Anyone else on the town?
My name is Ron Thomas. I live on Jefferson Circle here in town. My wife and I moved here about 3 years ago. It's a lovely town. I agree with everyone on that. And I'm very proud of our Department of Public Works this past winter with the blizzards we had and the job they did. As everyone said, very good job. So I just wanted to bring up a point that what I see in the town, though, yes, we have to maintain safe roads, keep our children as educated as best as we can as a community to keep the community growing. There's two sides to that story, to every side of every story. Who is paying for this? I mean, the educators in the town, yes, you want to maintain your services, but at what cost? Eventually, when the wastewater project comes about and the new school finally hits the taxpayers, who can afford to live in the town? When we're getting like a 2%, 3% increase before those bills even hit, it's going to be exponential when we do get the bill for those expensive items. So just take a look around at the town houses in the town. When I drive up and down the streets of this town, up and down in Glenwood and so forth, I see a lot of houses in disrepair. That's not helping our economy in our real estate market. The price of housing, if you notice in our town, is not going up, as some towns are. It's going down, at least in my neighborhood it is. So that's my big concern. Please consider that in future years' budgets to not overextend the spending. Thank you.
Anyone else? Tom?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I'm going to say, and
I know you're
My name is Jane Scully Welch, and I live on 101 Grove Street. I think this, you know I love this town. I love Memorial Day, I love the fire department, I love Pete, I love everybody, but I think one of our biggest problems is voter apathy. How are we going to fix that? June, how many people voted? Under 3,000, right? I mean, hundreds of people come out, thousands of people come out to vote for the president, and really this budget is more important to your everyday life than who's in the White House, basically. You just have to get out there, and as far as disrepair, I don't know if you know I'm on the pretty committee. But May 18th, we're having a 20-minute Clean Up Clinton Day. We just want you to go out for 20 minutes, clean your business, your home, your neighborhood, your street. Just pick up trash, because Clinton's really pretty, and we need to keep it that way. So I think, having worked the polls, there were some streets in this town where nobody voted on the whole street. So I think, regardless of how you're going to vote, get your neighbors, talk to your friends, go to church, tell them to vote. It's so important in this kind of government. That's all I have.
Anyone else on the town? Time to move to Board of Ed? Yes? Board of Ed. Come on.
I'd just like to say that this isn't the first time that I mentioned the waiver for the MDR, but it's the first time that I heard that we would have to reimburse the state. It wasn't my understanding. I did research it and made and inquired, and the only thing that I was told was that it could impact to some degree, a grant, and that would be minimal. But if that is the case, and I'll try to find out if that is the case, but if that is the case, at the very least, I think in good faith, I think the Board of Education budget should be reduced to exactly the MBR. And at least we'd be moving in the right direction. On the other hand, if it turns out that we don't need to reimburse that in following years, it's really important because it affects the MBR in all years that follow. So I'll look into it. Hopefully Jack will too. But at the very least, let's reduce the Board of Ed to the MBR because we know that it produces surpluses every year. Thanks.
Good evening, members of the Board of Finance. I thank you very, very much for all of your time, your energy, and your vetting of the budget and putting the budget together because it is no small task. I am a Clinton taxpayer. I look at my taxes as an investment. I choose to live in a community, in a seashore community, where we invest in a healthy lifestyle, support our young people, support our elder population, and provide a solid basis which is then reflected in home values and the quality of life here. It's a community where evil and negative do not permeate nor dictate what is the norm. My request to you is that we actually spend more and increase our services. I consider my taxes this investment. I request that we spend on a career counselor. I request that we spend on a police presence for security. I request that we invest in a substance abuse advocate. My request is that we invest in high-tech, award-winning library and serve all aspects of the healthy community life. That we provide incentives, and this, I'm going to touch on the town budget a little bit here too, that we provide incentives to those that serve our first responders, our educators, our law enforcement, our town maintenance, our sports leaders. My request is that we apply for grants, and in light of that we hire a grant writer, that we hire a town planner. We invest in these things, not for our children. We invest in them for our community. Thank you.
Valerie Pilcher again. I have the pleasure of attending my youngest son's graduation from Hofstra. 3 of my kids have gone through Clinton Public Schools, and I would like for the future generation of Clinton students to have at least the benefits that my kids have had. All 3 of my kids have done great, and I am here in support of the Board of Ed budget and to cut it as minimally as you can, please. And again, thank you for all you've done.
Mary Jo Phelps, I live on Delwood Avenue. I just wanted to thank you for your hard work and to remind folks that the Board of Finance, the Board of Education, and the Board of Selectmen are all bipartisan boards, all 3 of which unanimously supported the budgets that were presented at referendum. And I supported those budgets, and I would respectfully ask that you not make any additional cuts. And people accuse education advocates like we aren't all education advocates. They accuse us of blindly supporting the budgets. And I just want to address that and say, I support education budgets because for me, they are the minimum. I would like more money for increased hours for kindergarten parents who work only 2¼ hours a day. I would like more money for professional development for staff. I would like more money for technology upgrades. So I support education budgets, and I hope you all will too.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Finance. I don't always agree with all their decisions, and I let them know. And it comes back at me. But they are a volunteer group. They work their butts off. They put in a lot of time. For that, I thank them. I thank everybody else for coming here tonight. It is valuable discussing some of the turnouts that we have for some of these meetings, other local meetings. Thank you, Kirk, for filming them so that a lot of people who can't make meetings can watch them. I'm sorry we're at this point again. Each year we seem to get here. The town I haven't put as much thought into as I have on the education side. I was quite disappointed. I voted against it the first go round. I was quite disappointed that the initial reduction was as little as it was. I'm glad that it was increased. My reason is this. When it went down, I went to kind of the source. I called a few parents who still have kids in the school system, minored out, and they're very much connected to the Board of Education. And I asked them, I said, you know, where can we cut? And they said, well, and I understand why, for the budgeting process, I gotta switch, I got nerve damage. For the budgeting process, I understand that you can't count on retirements that aren't in yet. And they explained that to me and it made sense. They also told me that during this process, there have been a minimum of 4 retirements that have paperwork submitted, etc. So I asked them, and then I also called a couple of people in other school systems. One's an administrator, one's a teacher. I said, okay, what can we realistically look at in terms of savings for 4 or 5 teachers? And they said, well, it's usually a top-end person who's leaving, and it's usually someone towards the bottom who's coming in. They said, figure 4 or 5, a minimum $125,000, $150,000. And I have to take them at their word, because I really don't know. I mean, I can look on salaries in the town reports and get a rough guess from that. But it seemed fairly reasonable to me. My kids went through the Clinton school systems. They got a decent education, but I will tell you this, and you're not going to like it. There are a lot of people who my sons had, who now tell me, be very thankful that your kids are out of the school system. I don't ask for too many particulars, I know a lot of them, but these are teachers saying this. So you can judge from that. That's my personal experience. I don't know. But I would like to see a minimum of what is being cut for education, the education side coming up. I may yet still vote no until I get in the range that my friend suggested was fairly conservative, but very reasonable. Certainly very reasonable. That's just my point of view. Thank you.
Sandy Luke, 17 Dean. Maybe a frustration coming, if it's coming from teachers, would be getting to the straw that breaks the camel's back. There are teachers who are doing multiple jobs. Mrs. Bowen is one of them. She works in three different schools, is it? Or just 2? 2. She has to go around to the 2 different schools and manage her students in the different schools. Oh, and by the way, we can't afford a talented and gifted personnel. Oh, Mrs. Bowen, your children did really great in Clinton. Do you think you could do that too? Our talented and gifted program is tossed off to someone who is already overworked and working in 2 different schools because we can't afford 2 of her. We can't afford 2 of her. Now we're going to make her into 3 people because we can't help our top students. Because
you know why? It's not required by the state. We have to identify these kids. We do not have to do a single service to them. Maybe that's why people say, you're lucky your kids aren't in the school. I propose we increase the budget so that Mrs. Bowen can be 2 people or 3 people. Thank you.
I think for once, Sandy, Luke, and I agree on something. And that is, I think that kids' education is probably one of the most underinvested things in public education today. And I think it's really important as a national priority. However, I'm talking about the education budget this year. There were 2 big areas that were cited. One was the teachers, which I understand you can't, retirements, which you can't predict, even though they do happen year after year, and you probably could predict them if you tried, or at least conservatively predict them. But the other one is somewhat predictable, and that is the health insurance, which this year has a $490,000 surplus. Now, you're adding 5 people next year, 5 additional full-time equivalent people. About $15,466 goes for health benefits. So that's about $80,000. So there's $400,010 that probably should have been taken out of the health budget this year, and it was not. And that's the kind of thing that, you know, when the taxpayers look through these dollars and look at what the Board of Education does, what the Board of Finance does, and you see that they're not looking at some of this as closely as they need to. And it's very troubling. And that's why I would say that the budget should be, I agree with Ms. Semino that the education budget should be the minimum budget requirement probably this year and every year, unless there's some really good, extraordinary reason that it needs to be higher. You could fund that special education teacher with $490,000 or $400,000 of surplus. So if you said we need $100,000, $80,000 for another special education teacher, you'd still have room to take another $300,000 out of this budget. And that's what I would advocate. You could do that and still be down to minimum budget requirement. So I'm an advocate for, I don't think that what I'm saying is against education. It's about right-sizing the budget for education. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Eileen Smith, and I live on James Vincent Drive, and I'm a Clinton taxpayer. I'd also like to thank the Board of Finance for all they do. I do not want any further cuts beyond what is currently proposed to either budget. As I budget for my home, I understand that there are bills that need to be paid in order to live in the manner that I live. I also know that I need to keep a savings account or a surplus of funds for those rainy day purchases of septic system, an appliance that dies, or any unforeseen expenses out of the ordinary. Also, I understand that because I have savings, I am able to get a bank loan at a very low interest rate because of my good financial standing. I would like the same for our town of Clinton. Please keep the surplus because this is a good thing, not a bad thing, as many of our voters have been misled to believe. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rob Zerlis. I live on Stonewall Lane. I've been a resident of Clinton for 14 years, and I will actually make a recommendation that you don't cut from the audio budget for the town because this microphone has been horrible. I work for 2 companies. I'd like to think that the company that my career path I've led on for the last 20 years, and now I ultimately work for the town of Clinton in a sense. I have an obligation to both. I have an obligation to support this town. I have an obligation to my company to perform, and for my business, what I do, to provide. I can tell you that, when I started with my company, it was a regionally based company, and we've grown to a Fortune 15 company. And things like that don't happen simply by sitting back and being stagnant in what you do. We don't live in a vacuum in the company that I'm in. We invest in the technology and services, and in the long run, it provides for the financials that we've been able to make. If we continue to look at this from that short-sighted perspective, we're never going to grow. I hear people all the time in this town talking about, we need more business, we need more business. You don't attract business if you don't have ways to attract people to want to be here. I have 3 kids in the school system, and I'm very pleased in the way that they're developing and the way that they're growing and being educated by the teachers that are provided by this town. Great teachers. There's a few here that I see that I can't tell you how much I appreciate what they do. I was asked to start thinking about this a little more because I never show up for any of these meetings. This is my first meeting. And I know in the future, I will be here as many times as I possibly can to support this town. I'm not looking for us to go hog wild with a budget here. I think that what they're proposing at this point is modest at best. We're not looking for some substantial amount of money to be invested into the future of Clinton that will not pay a dividend. And if you don't invest in the future of this company, our town, you will never see the end result. We talk in my company about looking forward, having a vision past the short-sighted here and now. And we need to maintain that. And if you're looking for this town to grow, if you're looking for this town to flourish, if you're looking for businesses to want to be attracted to here, you have to develop the people that will bring that in and will maintain those people in this town. So, just lastly, I just want to mention, I feel an obligation to do more for this town, and I plan on doing it. And I also want my children in the future to be able to invest in this town and provide for it as well.
Darby Hiddle, 14 Leffingwell Road. My wife is covering her face right now. Hoping I don't embarrass her too much. I just want to say that we love the town, we love the library, and we have a couple of really rock star teachers that have made a difference in our kids' lives. I just want to say that, the last 6 years, ever since 2008, have been challenging for everybody. I'm 44 years old. I don't think I started thinking about things like this until I was 40 in 2008, when the bottom fell out. And then you read how many people are unemployed, they've had to move jobs, and they've lost their jobs, they've had to take pay cuts. And I'll be honest with you, I know several of the teachers, and my sister's an educator. She's a teacher in Pennsylvania for 23 years, so I'm able to have very candid discussions with her that I cannot have with my neighbors who are teachers, and we can argue with each other. I don't have to worry about being shunned by my neighbor because she lives in Pennsylvania. But you hear things on TV about Scott Walker, collective bargaining, and I got to be honest with you. In 2008, 2009, 2010, there was 5 years in a row we didn't get a raise, and you start thinking about things like, well, teachers are getting, they're not all true. They're ideas in your mind. You don't know what's true, so you have to go out and find out. Are the teachers getting raises every year? And you're finding out that the town costs, not only the education budget, but the town costs continue to rise and they go up, and it's difficult. And when we get a chance to vote for the budget, that's really the only chance we have to say to you how we feel. I don't know how many people voted, but I think it was like, let's say 2,000, 3,000 people. Mike? What was the total number that voted? Oh, okay. What was the total number that voted? Or 2,600, and the votes failed by 300. So what percentage is that? Over 10%? So it's about 10%. So I was talking with a coworker today. I work actually in Plainville. I drive about an hour to go to work now, and he was telling me about the town of Plainville. I don't know how accurate it is, but he talked about how if the town budget fails, the Board of Finance proposes a new budget. If the town budget fails again, or the school budget fails again, another budget is proposed. If the budgets fail a third time, he said that the Board of Finance gets to pick whatever budget they want of the 3 that were submitted, or something like that. I don't know the accuracy, but it sounded, no, I'm not suggesting it's in this town, but I heard that that might be going on in another town. And I would just say, listen to the voters. I don't have a lot of time to follow all the details. When I came to vote, I saw some folks that are here tonight standing on one side, and I saw some folks standing on the other side. And they will tell you that I was asking them some very candid questions, trying to get all my education in 5 minutes before I voted. And John came out and said, there's 5 minutes left to vote, so get in here if you want to vote. But you can't figure it all out in 5 minutes. And you make your decision. We all have the same right to vote. We're taxpayers. And I would just ask that the boards of finance and listen to the voters. And if you have to make a cut, it should be proportionate, possibly to the voter turnout. That's all.
My name is Regina Robbins Wolfe. I'm an old timer, lived here all my life. And as I look out, I've had many of the ladies and gentlemen in this room. In fact, Selectman Ray Regat was one of my former 4th grade students. We won't tell them what we did, but you remember, right? Something very special, something that I remembered for a long time in Ray, but you can ask him later. What I want to say, I'm a recently retired teacher. I spent my whole career here in Clinton because I love the town, love the children. My 2 children went through, all the way through Morgan. They're both highly educated. They both have wonderful jobs. Erica's a wonderful parent, and those skills that she learned not only from my husband and I, but from all the teachers that she had. As a teacher, I never asked for the Cadillac. I got the Studebaker. We didn't get Cadillacs. We didn't punch up the budget. We loved it if we won lotto, but we knew it wasn't realistic. We asked for what we needed. It wasn't the Cadillac. We made do with the Studebaker. Please, do not cut anymore. Someone mentioned before, and I think it was a young lady that just moved here. Welcome to our wonderful town in celebration of the 350th. It's an investment in Clinton's future. I was the future 62 years ago. Now it's someone else's turn to be that future. So please support the education budget. Thank you.
Is this working? Okay. Hi, my name is Maria Moran. I'm 64 Long Hill Road, and I'm a taxpayer. I'd like to thank the Board of Finance and also the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education for all the work that they did all year long to put their best budget forward, which was the one that they presented on May 5th, or May 8th. Just because somebody says that all budgets have fat does not make that true. I would like to ask the Board of Finance not to make further cuts to either the town or the education budget. I like living in a town that has been able to deal with all of the things that have been thrown our way recently. I like living in a town that was able to do immediate improvements to security literally days after the Newtown massacre. I like living in a town where it doesn't take a week to get your car out from a big snowfall the way it did for some houses in North Guilford. I like living in a town that can come and get debris after a hurricane. I like the fact that we have a properly functioning police force, we have a properly functioning fire department, we have a properly functioning town government, We have a good park system, and I'm very proud of the fact that we have an excellent education system and school system. I'm a teacher. I have 2 children. I have an 8th grader and an 11th grader. When I moved here 11 years ago, I can assure you that if this was a town that what they were advocating was to make sure that education was funded below minimum budget requirements, I would probably not have moved to this town. New families are the lifeblood. New families are the lifeblood of the community. It's where all the energy comes from. And if you start talking about operating below minimum state budget requirements, I can't even imagine what that does to our reputation. I have a daughter who has received a top-notch education. She's an 11th grader now. She's at Morgan. She took an AP history exam today in which she has learned this year more American history than I learned in my whole entire high school and college career. As a freshman, she was doing work that I did in college as a college freshman. And I just think the kind of education that she's getting here, it would not be the kind of education that would be delivered with minimum budget requirement type of budget. Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said over 100 years ago, I like taxes. With them, I buy civilization.
Steve Maxwell again from Christina Court. Again, I'm going to say pretty much the same thing, but I have the opportunity to say it, so I will. Is that the school district here, again, moving here about 13 years ago, it has incrementally gotten better. Every time there's a new hire, a new principal, superintendent, the hires get better, the policies get better, the procedures, the approach, the organization. Everything with this town has gotten incrementally better in the last 13 years. And again, it's all I can ask for. I have 2 teenage boys. If I give one of my sons $50 and he comes back with a couple cartons of cigarettes, I'm not giving him another $50. Okay? If I give him $50 and he comes back with a can of paint and paints the trim, fills up my gas can and mows the lawn, and then brings a pizza for me to eat and him, I'm giving him another $50. Okay, and that's kind of where we're at here, if I can use kind of a little bit of an analogy, stretching it maybe. But it's kind of the same thing. Things have gotten incrementally better. I don't know every nuance I can't claim to. But I did hear Mr. Carr just acknowledge that there should be a surplus and acknowledge that we should hire a teacher out of that surplus. I think I got him on record and we got it on that camera. So maybe that's a start in the right direction, but I don't think we should cut anything. I don't think operating at the minimum is right-sizing. Okay, it's not right-sizing. Right-sizing is an appropriate term to use in certain circumstances. It's not right-sizing when you're doing the minimum allowed by law. Okay?
My name is Erica Galvin. I'm at 2 Alton Drive. I am a Clinton taxpayer, as was my family tree for 70 years, 80 years. My late grandmother spent the last 70 years of her life very connected to this town. We have multiple limbs of my family tree have volunteered to support this town, and everything from fire department to EMS to raising money for God only knows what. I respectfully ask that you do not cut this budget further, either the town or education, because I see my tax dollars as my blessing, my opportunity to be able to continue that tradition of supporting and volunteering to help to support my town. I believe in this town, as my family did before me. I don't have the training or the knowledge or the time to be able to do what my family members did. This is what I can do. I'm getting something back for the money that I'm putting in, and I'm doing stuff that I believe in. And I do have kids in the school system as well. Any of you who know my daughters can attest to the sunshine that they are. And it's in large part because of what this school system has done and has given them and has empowered them to do. And I hope you can take me at my word that my sincerest wish is that my daughters want to come back to this town to raise their own families the way that my uncle did, my father did, and now I am. Thank you very much.
Hi, Tim Winninger, Jamaica Road. In my opinion, if we provide anything less than excellent education to our kids, then we're doing them a disservice. They are our future, and if we do not provide the education, shame on us, shame on us. They need that for their future. Our lives are what they are, let's provide for them, and we do that through providing education. I think we can do it with where the budget is now. Let's look forward from here. Thanks.
One more? Maybe the last. Oh, wait, God, that doesn't really need a microphone.
You know, it's kind of standard. I'm trying to figure out how to share what's in my heart tonight. How important education really truly is. I guess the way to really do that is to share something personal in my life with you people. I want to tell you about how I got my diploma in school. My mom gave it to me. I never made it to graduation day. Personal, young issues as a young man. My daughter today is a straight-A student. She's pushed and driven by my wife and by myself. We broke a chain in my home when I met my wife. Monday she got flowers at school because I realized the greatest thing that was in my home was my family, was my wife and my daughter. Heather worked so hard and is so proud to be that straight-A student. She's able to go onto a computer and she can figure out where her grades are. She can figure out where she has to improve, and she can figure out little things. She's my little hero when it comes to the internet, to be able to research things for Dad. My educational level when I left the public school was probably very below standards. And I stand here today as a businessman for 25 years in your community, and I've had to learn everything the hard way. I've had to beat myself into just this year learning what a computer can really do, what an iPhone can do. I've been teaching myself for 52 years, the hard way, by experience, by hitting my head, by banging my back, by pulling out every possible way to try and learn how to change a transmission in a truck because I didn't have the money to be able to afford someone to do it. I killed myself as a man. This winter with the snowstorm, I laid underneath a $75,000 payloader repairing hydraulic cylinders while oil was dripping in the back of Freddy's, trying to make sure that customers were taken care of with 3 feet of snow. I did everything I was supposed to do as a man. But I wanted to share something that tonight on this cell phone is a message from a company called NA Elite. They are the real estate company that is in charge of Friendly's old property. I haven't answered the call yet. Because the call is, Mr. Cashman, are you still interested in selling the property at the hardware store? I don't know what to do. I know what financial state our home is in. I know how important every dollar is to every person. I know how hard I have worked to make sure that my daughter gets on the school bus every day, and I'm proud to say that my daughter and my wife do a hell of a job with whatever that this man as a provider can give to them at their homes. Do I give up on the town? Every one of you people here tonight know what my family has gone through for the last year. We need to work together to keep this community together, not to drive it apart. We need to be integral in making sure that we're supporting every person who works into this room. Kurt Carr is not the person making the votes when it comes time to this. It is people who are scared. It is people like Jeff Cashman, who gets up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning to feed the animals that puts food on my table on our farm. It is Jeff Cashman who checks on those animals at 9 o'clock at night and rejoice to think that I'm providing meals for my family. That's how hard people are working in this community. The education I wish there was no child left behind when I was 18. I wish there was a program that would have grabbed me by the neck out of an alcohol-infested family to say, Jeff, you can be somebody with some education. You need to go to business school to see what a value of a dollar is. The guidance counselors needed to say, what's going on in that home? Cut all of those little services from every bit of our class in our schools, and you're going to find that you're going to have people who are struggling just as hard as I am every day with trying to figure out where are the bills going to be paid. I've worked just as hard as anybody in this room, if not harder, to provide for my family. I take great pride and say that, you know what, I know how bad things were in our community, and I raised $15,000 with the Rotary Club for our food pantry. I know what's going on in this community because I'm involved in the community. Is our school important for people just like Jeff Cashman? Don't miss any one of those kids. They might be the next president that comes out of this town. Don't miss the opportunity. I don't want to make that phone call tomorrow and say, you know what, yeah, I'm interested in selling, because my brother has a mortgage at home, and I've adopted another man who's a good friend who has a mortgage. I don't want the community to give up on me. We needed your support. I could tell you stories tonight of people since we've announced we've had nothing but problems in our community, how people have walked in and would make you cry to think that this community that I've loved have come back and put their arms around the man who's always said, I'm here for you. James Vincent Drive, I love you people for your mulch. Possibly imagine Christina Court when that truck goes right up in my backyard and you leave a check on the door how you're supporting my family. You can't imagine some of the subdivisions, and if I were to tell you a girl named Katie, she made me cry one day. Bring more, Jeff, bring more, bring more. We need each other in this community. We need each other to support each other. We need to make sure we're checking on each other. We need to make sure that we're in support of each other. We need to love each one of us people who are called taxpayers. Kurt Carr, I'm going to sit here and say thank you for making sure that each one of us are paying the proper amount of money. Not one person here would say, Kurt, thank you for taking all the garbage that you've taken in the community either. But you know what? At least there's someone here standing here saying we need to make sure that it's right. He doesn't deserve to be disrespected for his opinion. He needs to be respected for it. Just like Jack's saying, I'm trying to give your kids a good education. Just like Willie's trying to say, there's a storm coming. Remember that phone call? There's a storm coming. I have no clue. Hang on, we've never seen a storm like that. I've done snow removal for almost 35 years. I've never seen a storm like that. Frank Burns will probably sit there and go, I've never seen nothing like that either. We all work together. We got each other. We united as a community. We got together as a community. We helped each other shovel to get through that storm. What difference is that when it comes down to financial needs? It's a storm we have to weather through, and we have to get through it. But let's just be reasonable and help each other. Thanks a lot.
Anyone else? No. Come down.
Hi, I'm Catherine Strong, I live on Pratt Road, 102. I wasn't going to talk, but I just kind of got rated by everybody else. But I just want to say that I'm very conservative with my money. You ever see me at ShopRite, I have my coupons out. I'm very tight with any budget. And when I first came to town and I started going to a lot of the school board meetings and PTA meetings, I thought there must be so much more that we can tighten up. But I found that it really isn't. I think that we do the minimum almost in a lot of ways. And this new budget is going to be like, I think 0% increase. If you vote for it, your taxes will not go up, it won't cost you anything in some ways. So I think that ask for even less than that to take away is just almost unfair, because I think that it's not going to hurt your wallet. You just need to support the children, and education is just really important, and that's how we're going to, if you have a good system, people will come and that we will get money from that. I really believe that, so thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you for coming out. The public meeting's over. Thank you.